Captain Daniel Harris stood at the observation window of Earth's largest orbital station. He was a tall man with gray hair and tired eyes. He had spent 30 years in space, but nothing had prepared him for this moment. Outside the window, a massive alien ship was slowly approaching. It was black and angular, like a knife cutting through the darkness of space. "They are requesting permission to dock," said Lieutenant Katie Ward from her station. Her voice was calm, but Daniel could see her hands shaking slightly. "Grant them permission," Daniel said, "and tell Ambassador Monroe that our guests have arrived." Lisa Monroe was already on her way. She had been preparing for this moment for 5 years, ever since humanity had first detected signals from beyond their solar system. She was a small woman with sharp eyes and an even sharper mind. The government had chosen her to speak for all of humanity, and she took that responsibility very seriously. The alien ship connected to the station with a loud metallic sound. Daniel watched as the airlock doors slowly opened. What stepped through would change everything. The Korath were tall and thin, with pale gray skin and large black eyes. They moved with perfect precision, like machines rather than living beings. Their leader stepped forward and spoke in a flat, emotionless voice. "I am Delegate Vorath of the Galactic Concord. We have come to evaluate your species for potential membership." Lisa stepped forward and offered her hand in greeting. The Korath delegate stared at her hand with confusion for a moment before ignoring it completely. "You may proceed with your evaluation," Lisa said, lowering her hand. "We are happy to welcome you to Earth and answer any questions you might have." "Happiness is irrelevant," Vorath replied. "We require data on your military capabilities, your resource production, and your population control methods. Emotional responses are not necessary." Kevin Brooks was watching from the corner of the room. He was a xenoanthropologist, a scientist who studied alien cultures. He had been assigned to the diplomatic team to help them understand the Korath, but so far, he found them deeply disturbing. Everything about them was cold and calculated. They showed no warmth, no curiosity, no joy. Over the next several days, the negotiations continued. The Korath asked hundreds of questions about human society. How much food did they produce? How many ships did they have? How did they deal with criminals and the sick? Lisa answered all their questions honestly, but she also tried to learn about the Korath in return. She asked about their families, their art, their dreams for the future. Each time, the Korath delegate responded with the same flat confusion. "Art serves no productive purpose," Vorath said during one session. "The Concord eliminated such inefficiencies long ago." "What about families?" Lisa asked. "Do your people not form bonds with each other? Do parents not love their children?" Vorath tilted his head slightly. "Love is a biological weakness that clouds judgment. Children are raised in collective facilities where they are trained for maximum productivity. Emotional attachments reduce efficiency." Lisa felt a chill run down her spine. She looked at Kevin, who was taking notes with a troubled expression on his face. That night, Kevin came to Lisa with his findings. He had been studying the data streams from the Korath ship, learning everything he could about their society and the Galactic Concord they represented. "Lisa, you need to see this," he said, spreading documents across the table. "The Concord is made up of 47 different species. Every single one of them operates the same way. No families, no charity, no care for the weak or the old." "What happens to people who cannot work?" Lisa asked, though she was afraid of the answer. Kevin was silent for a moment. "They are left to die. There are no hospitals for the elderly, no homes for orphans, no support for the disabled. If you cannot contribute, you are considered worthless." Lisa sat down heavily. "How can an entire galaxy operate this way?" "I have been studying their history," Kevin said. Thousands of years ago, the galaxy went through a series of terrible wars. Resources became scarce. Species that showed compassion were seen as weak and were conquered or destroyed. Eventually, the survivors learned to suppress all emotion. They convinced themselves that kindness was a flaw that would lead to extinction. So they threw away their hearts to save their lives, Lisa whispered. Yes, and now they see us, and they do not understand us at all. To them we are strange and primitive. They think our compassion will destroy us. The next day, Lisa approached Delegate Vorath with a different kind of question. She had spent all night thinking about what Kevin had told her. Delegate, I would like to visit a Concord world. I want to see how your people live. Vorath seemed surprised by the request. This is unusual. Most species only wish to discuss trade agreements and territorial boundaries. We are not most species, Lisa said. We want to understand you. After several days of discussion, the Korath agreed. A small human delegation would be allowed to visit Korath Prime, the homeworld of the Korath species. Lisa selected her team carefully. She chose Kevin for his scientific Nan 3 months had passed since humanity first met the Galactic Concord. The human delegation had returned from Korath Prime with heavy hearts. They had seen the truth with their own eyes. Cities filled with workers who never smiled. Children raised in cold facilities where no one hugged them or told them stories. Old people left alone in empty rooms, waiting to die because they could no longer be useful. Lisa Monroe had given her report to the United Earth Council. The leaders had listened in shocked silence. No one had expected the galaxy to be so empty of warmth. But humanity did not have time to process this discovery. Something was about to happen that would change everything. Commander Amy Turner was on routine patrol near the outer planets when her communications officer picked up a strange signal. It was weak and distorted, but it was clearly a distress call. Can you identify the source? Amy asked, moving to the officer's station. It is coming from beyond Neptune's orbit. The signal is Velkari in origin. Amy knew about the Velkari. They were one of the species in the Galactic Concord, traders and merchants who traveled between the stars. Their ships were common in the space lanes, but they rarely came this close to Earth. What is their situation? The communications officer listened carefully to the signal. Their engine has suffered a catastrophic failure. They are drifting without power. Life support will fail in approximately 18 hours. Amy turned to her tactical officer. What do Concord protocols say about rescue operations? The young man checked his screens and frowned. According to the data we received from the Korath, there are no rescue protocols. Ships in distress outside profitable trade routes are not assisted. The crew is expected to accept their fate. Amy stared at him. They just leave them to die? Yes, Commander. It is considered inefficient to risk resources on ships that cannot be saved profitably. Amy felt anger rising in her chest. She had grown up on a small farm in Kansas, where neighbors helped each other through hard winters and bad harvests. The idea of leaving people to die because it was not profitable made her sick. Set a course for that ship, she ordered. Maximum speed. Her executive officer, a man named Paul Grant, stepped forward with concern on his face. Commander, we have not received authorization from Earth Command. The Concord might see this as interference in their affairs. Those people have 18 hours to live, Amy said firmly. We can reach them in 6. I am not going to sit here and do paperwork while 200 beings die in the cold of space. The ship changed course and accelerated toward the outer system. Amy sent a message to Earth Command explaining her decision. She knew there might be consequences, but she did not care. Some things were more important than protocols. 6 hours later, the rescue ship Horizon arrived at the location of the distress signal. The Velkari vessel was drifting in the darkness, its lights flickering weakly. It was a large ship built for carrying cargo across the stars, but now it looked sad and broken. Open a channel, Amy said. The view screen flickered, and a face appeared. The Velkari were different from the Korath. They had reddish-brown skin and 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern. The captain who appeared on screen looked exhausted and defeated. "This is Captain Torvax of the trading vessel Bright Fortune. Who are you? Why have you come?" "I am Commander Amy Turner of the Earth ship Horizon. We received your distress signal. We are here to help." Torvax stared at her with all 4 eyes wide open. "Help? We are not on any trade route of value. We have nothing to offer you in exchange." "We do not want anything in exchange," Amy said. "We are here because you need help. That is enough reason for us." There was a long silence. Torvax seemed unable to process what he was hearing. Finally, he spoke again, his voice uncertain. "This is not how things are done. The Concord does not send rescue ships for vessels like ours." "We are not the Concord," Amy replied. "Now please prepare to receive our boarding teams. We are bringing medical supplies, engineers, and food. We are going to get your ship running again." The next 19 hours were some of the hardest of Amy's life. Her crew worked without rest, moving between the 2 ships, carrying equipment and supplies. The Velkari engine had suffered a massive failure that had also damaged their life support systems. Toxic gases were leaking into several sections of the ship. Chief Engineer Sam Peterson led the repair team. He was a big man with rough hands and a gentle heart. He had fixed everything from tractors to starships in his 40 years of life, and he was not about to let this ship die. "We need to seal off the damaged sections first," he told his team. "Then we can work on the main reactor. It is bad, but I have seen worse." While Sam worked on the engines, Dr. Chris Miller set up a medical station in the Velkari cargo bay. Many of the crew had been injured in the initial explosion. Others were suffering from exposure to the toxic gases. Chris worked on them one by one, treating burns, setting broken bones, and giving medicine to those who were having trouble breathing. One of his patients was an elderly Velkari female. She was very old, and her injuries were severe. Chris knew that by Concord standards, she would have been left to die. She was too old to be productive. There was no logical reason to waste resources on her. But Chris was not from the Concord. He was from a small town in Ohio where people took care of their grandparents and visited them every Sunday. He spent 2 hours working on the old female, stabilizing her condition and easing her pain. Amy came to check on the medical station and found Chris sitting beside the elderly Velkari holding her hand. "How is she?" Amy asked quietly. "She will live," Chris said, "but she was very close to dying." "A few more hours and we would have been too late." The old Velkari opened her eyes and looked at Chris with confusion. She spoke in her own language, which the translation device converted to English. "Why did you save me? I am old. I have no value." Chris squeezed her hand gently. "Everyone has value. Your life matters. You matter." The old female's eyes filled with tears. It was the first time anyone had said those words to her in many, many years. Meanwhile, Captain Torvax was watching the humans with growing amazement. He followed Amy as she moved through his ship, directing her crew and checking on the progress of repairs. "I do not understand you," he finally said. "Your people have worked for nearly a full day without rest. You have given us food from your own supplies. You have treated our wounded as if they were your own crew. Why?" Amy stopped and looked at him. "Where I come from, there is a simple rule. When someone needs help, you help them. You do not ask what they can give you in return. You do not calculate the cost. You just help, because that is what good people do." "But this is inefficient," Torvax said. "You gain nothing from saving us." Amy smiled. "That is where you are wrong. We gain something very important. We get to live in a universe where people help each other. We get to know that when we are in trouble, others might help us too. We get to be the kind of people we want to be. That is worth more than any profit." Torvax was silent for a long time. He looked at the humans working on his ship. He looked at the doctor caring for his crew. He looked at Amy, who had risked her career to save strangers she had never met. Something stirred inside him, a feeling he had not experienced since he was a very young child. Before the training, before the conditioning, before he learned that caring was weakness. He did not have a word for it, but it felt warm. 20 hours after the horizon arrived, the Velkari ship's engines hum. The story of the Velkari rescue spread across the galaxy like fire through dry grass. At first, many species laughed at the humans. They called them foolish and weak. They said that wasting resources on a worthless ship proved that humanity was too primitive to join the Concord. But not everyone laughed. On Korath Prime, a young worker named Kethis heard the story from a trader who had passed through human space. He listened with strange feelings stirring in his chest. All his life, he had been taught that helping others was weakness, but something about the human story made him question everything he knew. Kethis worked in the lower districts of the capital city. This was where the unproductive were sent to die. The old, the sick, the injured, the broken. They were given minimal food and no medical care. They were expected to fade away quietly so that productive citizens would not have to see them. Every day, Kethis walked past these forgotten people on his way to work. He had learned to ignore them, just like everyone else. But after hearing the story of the humans, he found that he could not look away anymore. One morning, he stopped beside an old male who was lying against a wall. The old one was thin and weak, clearly near death. His eyes were closed and his breathing was shallow. Kethis looked around to make sure no one was watching. Then he knelt down and placed his own food ration in the old male's hands. The old one opened his eyes and stared at Kethis with confusion. "Why?" he whispered. Kethis did not have an answer. He simply stood up and walked away, his heart beating fast. He did not understand what had made him do such a thing. It was against everything he had been taught. It was inefficient. It was wrong. But it did not feel wrong. It felt right. Far away on Earth, the leaders of humanity were trying to decide what to do next. The rescue of the Velkari ship had created both problems and opportunities. Some voices in the Concord were calling for humanity to be punished for interfering. Others were curious about these strange beings who helped strangers for no reason. Ambassador Lisa Monroe proposed something bold. "We should send missions to conquered worlds," she said to the council. "Not military missions, not trade missions, humanitarian missions." "What would these missions do?" asked the council chairman. "Whatever is needed," Lisa replied. "We could send doctors to treat the sick, teachers to educate the young, engineers to build shelters for those who have none. We would ask for nothing in return." The chairman frowned. "The Concord will never allow this." "They might not have a choice," Lisa said. "The lower classes of many Concord species are starting to ask questions. They are hearing about us and wondering if there is another way to live. If we show them that there is, we might change the galaxy without firing a single shot." The council debated for many days. Some thought the plan was too risky. Others thought it was naive. But in the end, they decided to try. Humanity had nothing to lose and everything to gain. Dr. Chris Miller volunteered to lead the first medical mission. After his experience on the Velkari ship, he felt a calling to do more. He assembled a team of doctors and nurses who felt the same way. They loaded a ship with medicine and supplies and set course for Korath Prime. The Korath government did not welcome them, but they did not stop them either. They considered the humans too insignificant to worry about. Let them waste their resources in the lower districts, the officials thought. It would prove that compassion was foolish. Chris set up his clinic in an abandoned building in the poorest part of the city. On the first day, no one came. The people of the lower districts had learned to be suspicious. They expected tricks and traps. Free help did not exist in their world. But Chris was patient. He sat outside his clinic with a sign that said free medical care in the Korath language. He smiled at everyone who passed, even when they looked at him with fear or suspicion. On the third day, a female brought her sick child. The little one had a fever and could not eat. Chris examined the child gently and gave the mother medicine. "This will help with the fever," he said. "Come back tomorrow so I can check on the little one." The mother stared at him. "What do you want in payment?" "Nothing," Chris said. "Your child needed help. That is enough." The mother left with tears in her eyes. She had never received anything without paying for it. She did not know how to process such kindness. Word began to spread through the lower districts. The humans were giving free medicine. They were treating the old and the sick. They asked for nothing in return. It seemed impossible, but people were starting to believe it was true. Within a month, the clinic was treating hundreds of patients each day. Chris and his team worked from dawn until late at night. They were exhausted, but they were also filled with joy. For the first time in their lives, the forgotten people of Korath Prime were being cared for. Something else began to happen. Young Korath citizens started showing up at the clinic, not as patients, but as volunteers. They wanted to help. They did not know why. They only knew that watching the humans had awakened something inside them. Something that their society had tried to kill. Kethis was one of these volunteers. He came to the clinic one evening after his work shift and found Chris cleaning medical instruments. "I want to help," Kethis said. "I do not know how, but I want to learn." Chris smiled and handed him a cloth. "Start by helping me clean these, and then I will teach you how to take care of people." Meanwhile, on the Velkari homeworld, something even more remarkable was happening. Captain Torvax had returned from his near-death experience a changed person. He could not stop thinking about the humans who had saved his ship. He told the story to everyone who would listen. The Velkari government tried to silence him. They said he was spreading dangerous ideas, but Torvax refused to be quiet. He had seen another way of living, and he wanted his people to see it too. Megan Price, the young teacher from Earth, arrived on the Velkari homeworld with a simple proposal. She wanted to open a school, not to teach science or mathematics, which the Velkari already knew. She wanted to teach kindness. The Velkari officials thought she was insane. "You cannot teach kindness," they said. "It is not a subject. It is not quantifiable." "Watch me," Megan replied. She started with a small group of children. She taught them games that required cooperation instead of competition. She read them stories about characters who helped each other. She showed them how to share and how to say kind words. The children struggled at first. They did not understand why they should give things to others or why they should care about people who were not their family. But slowly, something began to change. They started to smile more. They started to look out for each other. They started to feel happy in a way they had never felt before. One day, a young Velkari boy named Torvis came to Megan with a problem. His friend Mira was sick and could not come to school. Torvis was worried about her. "What should I do?" he asked Megan. "What do you think you should do?" she replied. Torvis thought for a moment. "I should visit her. I should bring her food and tell her that I hope she feels better." Megan smiled. "That sounds exactly right." The Dominarch sat on his throne in the Great Hall of the Conquered Council. He was the supreme ruler of the galaxy's oldest and most powerful alliance. For 10,000 years, the Concord had maintained order through cold logic and ruthless efficiency. Now, for the first time in millennia, that order was being threatened. "Report," he commanded, his voice echoing through the vast chamber. His chief advisor stepped forward, a tall Korath named Vorath, the same delegate who had first visited Earth. His face was troubled. "The human influence is spreading faster than we predicted, Dominarch. Their medical missions on Korath Prime have treated over 100,000 citizens in the lower districts. Many of these citizens are now questioning the established order." "And the Velkari? the Dominarch asked. Worse, the human teacher has opened 17 schools across their homeworld. Young Velkari are learning concepts that we eliminated from our society generations ago. Words like kindness, friendship, and love are becoming common among their youth. The Dominarch rose from his throne, his dark robes sweeping the floor. This cannot continue. These humans are undoing 10,000 years of progress. They are reintroducing the very weaknesses that nearly destroyed our ancestors. What are your orders, Dominarch? Assemble the fleet. We will go to the human homeworld and end this threat before it grows any stronger. If they will not stop spreading their disease of compassion, we will make them stop. Word of the Dominarch's decision spread quickly through the galaxy. On Earth, Admiral Nathan Cole received the news with grim determination. He was a veteran of many battles, a man who had dedicated his life to protecting humanity. But he had never faced an enemy like this. How many ships? He asked his intelligence officer. Over 3,000 warships from 12 different species. It is the largest fleet the Concord has assembled in 500 years. Nathan studied the tactical displays, calculating the odds. Humanity had made great progress in the years since first contact. They had built new ships and developed new weapons, but they were still vastly outnumbered. The Concord had thousands of years of military advancement behind them. We cannot win a direct confrontation, Nathan said quietly. No, sir. If they attack with full force, Earth's defenses will last perhaps 3 days. Nathan thought about his family back home. His daughter had just been accepted into medical school. She wanted to join the humanitarian missions to help people on distant worlds. She believed in what humanity was doing. They all did. Prepare our defenses anyway, Nathan ordered. We will not go down without a fight. And contact Ambassador Monroe. If there is any chance of avoiding this war, she will find it. Lisa Monroe received the news while visiting the clinic on Korath Prime. Dr. Chris Miller found her sitting alone in a quiet room, staring at her communication device. How bad is it? He asked. Bad. The Dominarch is sending everything he has. He wants to make an example of us. Chris sat down beside her. What are you going to do? I do not know yet, but I have an idea. It is risky, and it might not work, but it is the only chance we have. Tell me. Lisa looked at him with tired eyes. The Dominarch's power comes from fear. The people of the Concord obey him because they are afraid of what will happen if they do not. But we have spent the last year showing them something different. We have shown them that there is another way to live. If enough of them believe in that other way, maybe they will find the courage to stand up. You want to inspire a revolution? Not a violent one. Violence is their way, not ours. I want to remind them of who they used to be, before the wars, before the fear, before they convinced themselves that caring was weakness. Lisa stood up and began to pace. I am going to broadcast a message to the entire galaxy. Every ship, every planet, every station. Everyone will hear it. Will the Dominarch allow that? Lisa smiled grimly. He will try to stop me, but we have friends now, friends who might be willing to help. Captain Torvax received Lisa's request while his ship was docked at the Velkari capital. She asked him to use his trading networks to spread her message to as many worlds as possible. The risk was enormous. If the Dominarch found out, Torvax and his entire crew would be executed. Torvax thought about the humans who had saved his ship. He thought about Amy Turner, who had hugged him and asked for nothing in return. He thought about the old female who had been healed when she should have been left to die. We will do it, he told Lisa. Whatever happens, we will make sure the galaxy hears your words. On Korath Prime, Kethis heard about the coming war. He gathered the other volunteers at the clinic and told them what was happening. The Dominarch wants to destroy the humans, he said. He wants to stop what they have started here. He wants to go back to the old ways, where the weak are left to die and kindness is forbidden. The volunteers listened in silence. Many of them were afraid. They had grown up under the Dominarch's rule. They knew what happened to those who challenged the Concord. But they had also changed. The humans had shown them something beautiful. They had experienced compassion for the first time in their lives. They had felt what it was like to help others and be helped in return. They did not want to go back to the cold, empty existence they had known before. "What should we do?" one of them asked. Kethis looked at the faces around him. These were people who had been told their whole lives that they were worthless, but they had learned that they had value. They had learned that their kindness mattered. "We stand with the humans," Kethis said. "Whatever that means." "Whatever it costs, we stand with them." The Dominarch's fleet gathered at the edge of human space. 3,000 warships hung in the darkness, like a wall of metal and fire. On the bridge of his flagship, the Dominarch prepared to give the order to attack. But before he could speak, something unexpected happened. 20 Velkari trading vessels appeared between the fleet and Earth. They were small and unarmed, no match for the warships behind them, but they positioned themselves directly in the path of the invasion. "What is the meaning of this?" the Dominarch demanded. Captain Torvax's face appeared on the view screen. "We are here to tell you that we are withdrawing from the Galactic Concord." The Velkari no longer wish to be part of a system that punishes kindness and rewards cruelty. "You are committing treason," the Dominarch said coldly. "Move your ships, or they will be destroyed." "Then destroy us," Torvax replied. "But know that the entire galaxy is watching, and they will see what kind of leader you truly are." At that moment, Lisa Monroe's message began to broadcast across every frequency in the galaxy. Her face appeared on screens in ships and stations and homes on 1,000 different worlds. "People of the galaxy," she said, her voice calm but strong. "I am Ambassador Lisa Monroe of Earth. I know that many of you have been told that we are a threat, that our compassion is a disease that will destroy your society. But I ask you to think about what you have seen from us. We saved a ship full of strangers because they needed help. We healed the sick because they were suffering. We taught children to be kind because kindness makes life worth living. We asked for nothing in return. We did these things because we believe that every life has value. Every person matters. No one should be left behind. Your ancestors believed this too once, before the wars, before the fear. They cared for each other. They loved their families. They helped their neighbors. The Concord taught you to forget these things, but you did not forget completely. You cannot forget completely, because compassion is not weakness. It is the strongest force in the universe. The Dominarch wants to destroy us because he is afraid of what we represent. He is afraid that if you remember how to care, you will no longer need him. And he is right. You do not need a ruler who tells you that love is a flaw. You do not need a system that throws away the old and the sick. You deserve better. You deserve a galaxy where kindness is strength and helping others is the highest honor. We are not asking you to fight for us. We are asking you to fight for yourselves, for your children, for the future you want to live in. Stand up. Speak out. Remember who you were. Remember who you can be. The message ended, but its effects were just beginning. On the Dominarch's flagship, crew members exchanged uncertain glances. Some of them had family in the lower districts of their homeworlds. Some of them had been moved by the stories of human kindness they had heard. Some of the Dominarch fled in the night, taking a small ship and disappearing into the far reaches of space. His council, the same beings who had followed his orders for centuries, simply watched him go. They did not try to stop him. They did not try to find him. His time was over, and everyone knew it. In the days that followed, the great fleet that had come to destroy humanity quietly returned to their homeworlds. Captains who had been ready to fire on Earth now found themselves questioning everything they had been taught. The crews talked among themselves about the human message and what it meant. For the first time in 10,000 years, the people of the conquered were asking why. Why had they abandoned compassion? Why had they convinced themselves that kindness was weakness? Why had they built a society that threw away anyone who could not contribute? These questions had no easy answers. But the fact that people were asking them at all was a miracle. The frozen hearts of the galaxy were beginning to thaw. On Earth, celebrations erupted when news came that the fleet had withdrawn. People danced in the streets, hugged strangers, and wept with relief. They had been prepared to die defending their home, but instead they had won without a single shot being fired. Admiral Nathan Cole stood at his command center and watched the enemy ships disappear from his screens one by one. His tactical officer looked at him with amazement. "How did this happen, sir? We should all be dead." Nathan thought about his daughter, who wanted to be a doctor. He thought about the stories he had heard from the humanitarian missions. He thought about Lisa Monroe's broadcast and the courage it had taken to speak those words. "We won because we remembered something the galaxy forgot," he said. "We remembered that people want to be good. They want to care about each other. They have just been told for so long that they cannot. We gave them permission to feel again, and that was more powerful than any weapon." The fall of the Dominarch left a vacuum in galactic politics. The Concord had been held together by fear and tradition, and now both were crumbling. Representatives from different species began to meet secretly, discussing what should come next. Lisa Monroe was invited to these discussions. She traveled from world to world, meeting with leaders who had once considered humanity too primitive to matter. Now they looked at her with respect and hope. "We want to build something new," a Korath representative told her during one meeting. "But we do not know how. We have never lived in a society that valued compassion. We do not have the knowledge." "Then let us learn together," Lisa replied. "Humanity does not have all the answers. We make mistakes. We can be cruel and selfish and short-sighted, but we have never stopped trying to be better. That is what we can offer you, not perfection, just the commitment to keep trying." 5 years after first contact, representatives from 93 species gathered on a neutral world called Serenity Station. They came to sign a document that would create a new alliance, one founded on principles that had been forbidden for millennia. The document was called the Charter of the Galactic Commonwealth. Its first line read, "All beings have inherent dignity and worth, regardless of their productivity or usefulness." Captain Daniel Harris was there for the signing ceremony. He was old now, his hair completely white, his body worn from a lifetime of service, but his eyes were sharp and bright as he watched history unfold. "I never thought I would see this day," he said to Lisa Monroe, who stood beside him. "When we first met the Korath, I thought the galaxy was lost. I thought we would have to choose between joining their cold system or being destroyed by it." Lisa smiled. "You underestimated us. You underestimated everyone." "I suppose I did." The ceremony was beautiful. Representatives from dozens of species stood together, signing their names to the charter. Some wept openly, experiencing public emotion for the first time in their lives. Others embraced colleagues they had known for years but never truly connected with. The walls that had separated them were finally coming down. Dr. Chris Miller was there too. He had continued his work on Korath Prime, building a network of clinics that now served millions of patients. The people he had helped called him the Healer, a title he found embarrassing but could not escape. "What will you do now?" Daniel asked him. "Your mission is complete. The galaxy has changed." Chris laughed. "The galaxy has just started to change. There is still so much work to do. So many people who need help. I will keep working until I cannot work anymore. and then someone else will take my place." Nearby, Megan Price was surrounded by young people from a dozen different species. They were graduates of her schools, the first generation to be raised with compassion as a core value. They looked at each other not as Velkari or Korath or human, but simply as friends. "Teacher," one of them asked, "what happens next?" Megan looked at their eager faces. "Next, you take what you have learned and share it with others. You build families and communities based on kindness. You show the galaxy that compassion is not just something humans invented, it is something that belongs to everyone." The celebration continued late into the night. Ships from 100 worlds hung in orbit around Serenity Station, their weapons powered down, their crews united by something stronger than fear. Music played in the great halls, blending styles from dozens of cultures. Food was shared, stories were told, and friendships were forged that would last for generations. In a quiet corner of the station, Daniel Harris sat alone, looking out at the stars. He was tired in a way that sleep could not fix. He had given everything he had to reach this moment. Now he was ready to rest. A young Korath child approached him, moving shyly through the crowd. She was small, with curious eyes and a hesitant smile. In her hands, she carried a tiny flower in a pot. "Hello," Daniel said gently. "What is your name?" "My name is Kira," the child said. "I grew this flower myself. My teacher helped me. She said I should give it to someone who deserves it." "And why do I deserve it?" Kira thought for a moment. "Because my grandmother told me about your people. She said that when she was sick, a human doctor helped her even though she was old and everyone else had given up. She said your people taught us how to care again." Daniel felt his eyes filling with tears. He accepted the flower carefully, as if it were the most precious thing in the universe. "Thank you, Kira. I will take very good care of it." Kira smiled, and it was a smile that would have been impossible just a few years ago. A smile born from a heart that had learned to love. "My teacher says kindness is like a flower," Kira said. "If you take care of it, it grows and makes more flowers, and then everyone can have one." Daniel nodded, unable to speak. He watched as the child skipped back to her group, waving goodbye with a joy that filled the entire room. Lisa Monroe came to sit beside him. She saw the flower in his hands and understood. "It was worth it," Daniel said finally. "All of it, the fear, the uncertainty, the risk. It was all worth it to see that smile." Lisa put her hand on his shoulder. "We did something impossible, Daniel. We changed a galaxy, not through war or conquest, but through kindness." "No," Daniel said, shaking his head. "We did not change the galaxy. We reminded it. Every species out there had compassion once. They just forgot. We helped them remember." Outside the window, the stars burned bright against the endless dark. They were the same stars that had watched the galaxy fall into coldness 10,000 years ago. Now they watched it rise again, warmed by a simple truth that had nearly been lost forever. Every life has value. Every person matters. No one should be left behind. Humanity had crossed the vast distances of space carrying a gift more precious than any technology or resource. They had carried compassion. And the galaxy, at long last, had remembered how to feel. The dawn was here, and it would never set again. Kira's flower sat on the windowsill, small and fragile, reaching toward the light. It was just a tiny thing, easy to overlook. But it was also proof that even in the coldest darkness, life could find a way to bloom. Daniel watched it for a long time, thinking about all the flowers that would grow from this one moment, all the kindness that would spread from this single act of caring, all the lives that would be changed because one species had refused to give up on the galaxy. He smiled, closed his eyes, and let himself rest. The work was not finished. It would never be finished. But for now, It was enough. Humanity had given the galaxy its heart back, and the galaxy had finally learned how to use it. M had simply grown tired of a life without warmth or love. On Korath Prime, massive crowds gathered in the streets. They were not violent. They simply stood together, holding signs that read, "Remember compassion," and "We will not go back." Across the galaxy, similar scenes played out on 100 different worlds. The Dominarch's order to attack sat unspoken on his lips. He looked at the tactical displays and saw something he had never seen before. His own ships were standing down. Not all of them, but enough. Captains were refusing orders. Crews were demanding to return home. The great fleet that was supposed to crush humanity was falling apart from within. The Dominarch realized with growing horror that he had lost, not to human weapons or human strength, he had lost to human compassion. The very thing he had dismissed as weakness had proven stronger than all his warships combined. The flame that humanity had lit could not be extinguished. It was spreading across the galaxy, warming hearts that had been cold for 10,000 years, and there was nothing the Dominarch could do to stop it. Torvis visited his sick friend that day. He brought her fruit from his own lunch and told her stories to make her laugh. When Mira returned to school a few days later, she hugged Torvis in front of everyone. The other children watched with wide eyes. Some of them had never seen a hug before. But after that day, hugging became common in Megan's class. The children were rediscovering something their ancestors had lost long ago. News of the school spread across the Velkari homeworld. Parents wanted their children to attend. Officials who had once mocked Megan now came to observe her classes with curious expressions. The strange human was achieving results that their efficient education system had never produced. Her students were happier, more creative, and more willing to work together. Back on Earth, Lisa Monroe received reports from the missions with growing hope. The plan was working. Slowly but surely, the seeds of compassion were taking root in alien soil. But Lisa also knew that the real challenge was still to come. The old powers of the Concord would not sit quietly while their ancient system was challenged. Somewhere in the galaxy, forces were gathering that would try to stop the spreading flame of human kindness. Lisa looked out at the stars and made a silent promise. Whatever came next, humanity would not back down. They had shown the galaxy something precious and rare. They would protect it with everything they had. The flame was spreading, and it would not be easily extinguished. Med, back to life. The crew gathered in the main hall, healthy and whole. Captain Torvax stood before the human rescue team, struggling to find the right words. "You have given us our lives," he said. "We do not know how to repay you." Amy stepped forward and did something that shocked every Velkari in the room. She embraced Torvax, wrapping her arms around him in a human hug. "You do not owe us anything," she said. "Just remember this moment, and if you ever see someone else in need, help them too." As the horizon departed, Torvax watched it go from his observation window. The old female he had thought worthless stood beside him, tears still fresh on her face. "What did they call it?" she asked. "That thing they showed us?" Torvax thought about Amy's smile, about Chris holding the old female's hand, about strangers working through the night to save people they would never see again. "I think," he said slowly, "they called it compassion." He had never heard the word before, but he knew he would never forget it. Owledge, a doctor named Chris Miller who could observe their medical practices, and a young teacher named Megan Price who had insisted on coming along. "Why do you want to go?" Lisa had asked Megan. "Because if what you say is true, then those people have forgotten something important," Megan replied. "And maybe we can help them remember." As they boarded the Korath ship for the journey, Daniel Harris came to see them off. He shook Lisa's hand firmly. "Be careful out there," he said. "We do not know what we are dealing with." Lisa nodded. I think we are dealing with something very sad, Daniel. An entire galaxy that has forgotten how to care about each other. I do not know if we can change that, but we have to try. The ship's engines hummed to life, and soon Earth was just a small blue dot in the distance. Lisa watched it disappear and thought about all the things that made humanity special. The way neighbors helped each other after storms. The way strangers donated blood to save lives. The way people adopted children who had no one else. These things seemed so natural to her. She had never imagined a universe where they did not exist. But now she was traveling into that universe, and she carried with her the most dangerous weapon humanity possessed. Not guns or bombs or ships of war. She carried something far more powerful. She carried compassion, and she was about to show the galaxy what it had forgotten.